It's an institution, not just on the West Bank in Westwego, but in the greater New Orleans area. It's Moe's Pizza. It doesn't get any better. At 1012 Avenue H in Westwego, go to sportsNOLAtv20. It's the biggest pie you'll find in town, and it's the best, too. I would know that, and so would my rotund waist. Ken Trahan, and a pleasant good evening. Sports NOLA TV coming at you from Moe's Pizza in Westwego, and we're very glad that you've joined us here tonight to break it down and talk about the New Orleans Saints, to talk about prep football, state championship action. We'll touch on Tulane this evening and much, much more, and we will do so with our regulars. First of all, Brian Allee-Walsh of sportsNOLA.com. Brian, always a pleasure. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Trahan. Always a pleasure. This just in, David Wilson has just returned a kickoff for a lot of yards into Saints territory. And I know our guest analyst right here will love that comment.
Oh, we'll get to him in a moment, because our other regular, par excellence, former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Torrance Small, has something to say as well. Torrance, good evening.
How we doing, Ken? Hey, great football this weekend, and I'm not talking about the Saints. I'm talking about in the Dome, high school football. If you miss it, hey, you missed it.
You did miss it, and we'll get into that a little bit later. It was a great weekend for local teams, which made a lot of people happy. One of the guys that's happy about it, because he's trying to recruit as many local players as he can, and why not? Because he's local, a native of this area. He's home again, but then again, he's been home for a while, was coaching with the Saints. Now he's the head coach of the Tulane Green Wave, just completed their 2012 season. He is CJ Curtis Johnson. Curtis.
Congratulations to all you state champions. You three local state champions, you were wonderful this week. I loved it. Thank you.
He really does love. He loves him some local football teams.
Now, is that a
he loves him some local football players.
I don't know about
Does that constitute a visit? I'm not sure. I'm just trying to make sure. What's that?
If Torrance had Curtis as a wide receivers coach,
yes,
he may not be at this table today.
You're right. You're right.
What, he'd either still be playing.
He'd be playing.
Or he'd have quit. Because Curtis rode him so hard. We had Joe Horn on a few weeks ago, right? Yeah, just ask Joe. His favorite guy. And I'm jesting. We're having a fun time. Listen, we're just getting started. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at the Saints highlights, if you want to call them that, against the Giants, as Sports NOLA TV continues from Moe's Pizza in Westwego. Good night. That's a great name, obviously. Joe Morgan putting up some monster numbers when he gets the ball. That's amazing. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV from Moe's Pizza in Westwego with Torrance Small, Brian Allee-Walsh, and Tulane head football coach Curtis Johnson. Of course, we say former Saints coach. Why not? He can talk about the Saints. He watches them all the time. He loves them, and he cares. And I know he's happy to see Joe Morgan making plays. So I'll start right there, Curtis. Are you surprised to see how Joe's emerged this year? This was a guy that looked like he was still trying to figure it out, looked like he had trouble holding the ball at times, and here he is making nice catches deep down the field.
You know, I think one thing about Joe has incredible speed. He's one of these guys that can hit you with a home run at any time. I think he's starting to figure the offense out. I think his timing with Drew Brees is getting better, and he's a class guy. So you know, it's a wonder that he's making those plays. I understand why. We're
going to let the analysts break this down too, but as you watch the Saints play, something's missing. We know the head coach is missing. We know that you correspond with him pretty frequently and how fond he is of you and vice versa. Obviously, they missed Sean Payton significantly. Did you anticipate that it would be this much?
Absolutely not. You know, one thing that you don't understand, you know, this is my first year being a head coach. The head coach is the presence. The head coach is the presence in the locker room. He's a presence in the community. But just his way is just so important. And I don't think that they feel his way. And so now, it was Cromer's way early on. Now it's Coach Vitt's way. All of a sudden, they just need their number one leader. They need the vision. They need the direction back.
Well, the kicking game was obviously a major problem in this game and really the biggest contributing factor. But the turnovers, you can't win in the NFL when you turn it over 11 times in 3 weeks like the Saints have. And I know it drove you crazy to watch a wide receiver let one get away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it reminded me of my team a little bit. You know, we turned the ball over a lot the last 3 games, and we were not successful. If you turn it over in Pop Warner, you turn it over in basketball, whatever sport it is, you just can't turn the football over.
Torrance, as you watch this, and Marcus Colston's a great player. He's as consistent would be, and yet ball gets away there, and that kind of changes momentum and really kind of changes the direction of the game. When you turn the ball over like this, you have no prayer.
Well, this thing with the Saints right now, turnovers are killing us. I think they're pressing a little bit too much. I don't think these guys going out there intentionally trying to make bad plays and turn the ball over, throw interceptions, not making plays and whatnot. I think they're really trying their best to do their best, but the one thing they're just pressing. Just play the game, enjoy, have fun, play together. The one thing we know about losing ball games, 3 things that contribute to losing ball games. Turnover is one of them. Penalties and third down conversions. And right now, we're not getting any of them done right now.
Brian, the defense makes a play, puts them on top 7-0. Defense plays pretty well for the first part of the game, but they can't put anything together. When the defense plays well, special teams break down, special teams play well, offense breaks down, offense plays well, defense breaks down. I mean, this is your typical sign of a team that's not a winner. They cannot put 2 phases together, much less 3.
Yeah, I think the special teams didn't get that memo that coaches give out on a Saturday night before a game that, you know what, this is a complementary game. Every phase has to complement the other. And if you look at the last 3 games, defense has played well for the most part, okay? Offense has not played well, and of course the special teams, which had been consistent all season long, did not contribute. In fact, they hurt the team dramatically yesterday. You know, it's amazing how, and Curtis, you know this being on that staff, is that this group prides itself in attention to detail, and there were so many breakdowns on special teams that you go, whoa, where was this? We hadn't seen this in the first 12 games of the season.
And Curtis, when you look at special teams, you come into the Tulane program, and Tulane's kick coverage when you got there was an abortion, for lack of a better word. They had just an awful time covering kicks, and it got a little better this year. It still has a ways to go, obviously, but at your level as compared to the NFL, sometimes it's simply not having the athletes. At the NFL level, that's not the issue at all. Special teams becomes a matter of preparation, discipline, and then want to a large degree, isn't it?
You know, absolutely. I know Sean would say probably we got to have some want to. You know, I remember his want to speech. I just saw a couple times where guys just didn't cross face, guys were in the wrong alleys. They just didn't do what they were coached to do. I know McMahon does a tremendous job getting those guys prepared. You know, I think 2 things like Brian said, you got to pay attention to detail, and then there's that want to.
Well, I think the 1-2 is a big part of it, certainly, Torrance, and then you have a situation whereby you see it happen one time, okay, they're going to get that fixed. Then it happens again, okay, they're not going to do that again, and then they do it again. It's just, I don't think I've ever seen a game that the Saints have experienced where this has happened in the history of the franchise. I saw it once on the Saints' part when Tyrone Hughes had the greatest game ever, returning kicks for over 300 yards, one of our friends and frequent guests here.
Yeah, and I was part of that. I was part of that 300 night.
You made every
returns.
block, right? Yeah.
I was there. I was part of that. Hey, I take my credit. But one of the things that separates college from the pros is detail. One thing that separates good teams from bad teams is detail. If you're not paying attention to details, these are the type of things that happen. We were talking earlier about what separates the good teams from the bad teams. We say it's a very thin line. That thin line is detail, paying attention to the detail, to the small things, being where you're supposed to be, right steps, right fundamentals, just fundamental play football, doing your assignment, being disciplined enough to trust your teammates and all. And this is the type of football that we don't have with the Saints right now.
Brian, when you look at the rest of the season, obviously their aspirations to make the postseason are done. Now you're playing for jobs, you're playing for pride, and Coach Payton, we'll get into this in a little while, is watching unquestionably. And there's no doubt that some guys understand that they have to perform better if they want to be here next year.
Yeah, you know, mathematically.
And let me add this too.
Sure.
Joe Vitz said, as much as said that after the game, he came out and basically said, you know, we got some guys that understand how to win, and we got some guys that really don't get it, and that's going to change.
And they will be weeded out, believe me. Curtis knows that better than all of us, being in that football operations. You know, the thing that's going to happen over the next 3 games is that this team is very capable of running the table. Okay, the last 3 opponents, these are the creme de la creme of the NFC for the most part, and you know, and they didn't hold their own. The Saints did, but these next 3 opponents, Curtis, you know this, 8-8 sounds a heck of a lot better going to the offseason than say 6-10 or 7-9, and that's what they can do if they want to play football here.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. You know, here's what you want now. You know, you can't get in the playoffs. Everyone's dream is to be in the playoffs, be in the postseason. Now you need momentum. Here's where your momentum starts. Next season, you know, you're thinking right now, hey, I got to create something. I got to make a name for myself, because I'm telling you, it'll be players, it'll be coaches, it'll be management. Everybody, when Sean comes back, you just got to watch out.
Yes, one thing these guys need to learn, and me sitting back looking at some of these guys, we have a lot of these guys on the team that don't know how to be a professional. A professional is performing at a high level in spite of. Regardless of what's going on in your household, what's going on with the organization, anything that's going on, you have to go out and perform at a high level regardless of. And that's what they need to learn these last few games, is how to be a professional.
And obviously, one thing that's going to happen this week, we'll probably get a ruling from Paul Tagliabue, and maybe finally put this incredible story to bed. Finally, maybe. And I stress maybe, because even then, there may be appeals depending on what comes down. But I really sense that penalties are going to be lessened by the time this is over with, and that will just open up a whole new can of worms. Back in just a moment to take a trip around the NFL on sportsNOLAtv from Moe's Pizza. Our Sports NOLA trivia question of the evening. On Sunday, Darren Sproles had his second game as a Saint with both a rushing and receiving touchdown. Question: who has the most games with both rushing and receiving touchdowns in team history? 4 choices: Reggie Bush, Tony Galbraith, Dalton Hilliard, Pierre Thomas. So you've got 2 modern era guys, 2 previous era guys, all of whom were very good. And of course, Dalton Hilliard, Tony Galbraith, members of the Saints Hall of Fame. So think about it. We'll get back to you with the correct answer a little bit later on in the show. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, Moe's Pizza, an institution here in Westwego. And you want a great pizza pie, you'll get one here. But you got other great Italian food, including the muffaladas here as well, which are out of sight. And I'm getting hungry thinking about it. NFL, and it was another interesting weekend in the league. And let's take a look at some of the results from around the league from this past weekend. Week 14, Denver took care of Oakland, and they continue to roll and look like a team to beat in the AFC. How about St. Louis? What a job Jeff Fisher has done. They went to Buffalo and won. They got a 500 record. Carolina put it on Atlanta, and the final score really doesn't indicate how they dominated that game. Dallas with a last-second win at Cincinnati, an emotional weekend for the Cowboys with the tragedy off the field. Cleveland is playing very honest football. They whipped Kansas City. And then Indianapolis, unbelievable story. Their 9th win of the year. They beat Tennessee 27-23. Elsewhere, it was the Jets doing enough to beat Jacksonville. Minnesota, big home win over the suddenly reeling Bears. How about San Diego? They were dead to rights for the last month. They go to Pittsburgh and whip the Steelers with Big Ben returning. Philadelphia, last-second win over Tampa Bay, really hurts the Bucs. In overtime, unbelievable. Redskins, this is a team to watch. RG3 gets hurt. They still win in overtime over a good Ravens team. San Francisco beating Miami out on the West Coast by 14. How about Arizona? How could you possibly go into this season with that quarterback plan? Green Bay and Detroit, well, let's see. The Packers got that done, so I think we got that flipped. Houston and New England, that's the Monday night game. So, Brian, as you take a look at that card from this past weekend, tell us what you saw that impressed you the most.
Kenny, number surprised, but I'm gonna go to Heinz Field and what San Diego was able to do and beat the Steelers with Roethlisberger coming back after being on the sideline for a couple of games. That was a must-win for the Steelers, and they took it to them with a coaching staff that's in limbo right now. And for that 34-24 final is not indicative of what they own that game.
Torrance?
Myself, I like the Minnesota Vikings. I like what they're doing right now. Here you don't have Percy Harvin, and Adrian Peterson is just lights out with running the ball right now. I like what Leslie Frazier have those guys down there doing right now. Might I add, he is an Alcornite from Alcorn State. That is why. Congratulations to them.
Somehow I knew you'd get that plug in. I'm not sure why, but I knew you'd come to it. I've got to go to the Rams. I said it before. They're at 500 now, which is coming off of a season where, as you know, they couldn't beat anybody except for the Saints. Ooh, I shouldn't have brought that up. But they have turned it around immensely because Jeff Fisher is one of the best underappreciated coaches in modern times in the NFL. Consistent as can be, solid approach. He's taken Sam Bradford, a good quarterback. Doesn't have quite the supporting cast he wants for him yet, but they've made their offense a modified offense that fits to what they're doing. They're playing better defense. And let me tell you something, they're 6-6-1. They went on the road at Buffalo. That's not an easy place to win in December. And they had a couple of other games that were close calls that they lost and had a tie that they could have won as well. This team's in the playoff race. So who would have thought that the St. Louis Rams are positioned for a playoff spot and the New Orleans Saints are not at this stage of the season? So that's where I'm going. Curtis, what did you see that impressed you?
The Indianapolis Colts. They are a playoff team. My guy, Reggie Wayne, the ageless one from up here in Marrero at John Harrod High School, playing well. The quarterback's playing well. And a former co-worker of mine, Chuck Pagano, was with me at the University of Miami, has leukemia now, and they're just not missing a beat. They are doing a fantastic job.
And give credit to Bruce Arians, a former Saints assistant, for doing a great job of stepping in for Chuck Pagano, who it looks like might be back at some point here late in the season, which would be fantastic. And we will continue to keep that in our thoughts and prayers because he's a good man, and that is a tremendous story. The playoff picture is pretty clear. The Saints aren't going to be part of it. So let's take a look, first of all, the NFC playoff picture and how it stands as we speak. Moving ahead, Atlanta got beat. San Francisco moves closer in the 2 spot, and Green Bay gets into that 3 spot. The Giants at 4 after beating the Saints, and then you got Washington and Dallas hanging on right behind Seattle and Chicago. Seattle with that easy win, but you got those Eastern teams lurking, and Chicago struggling. Minnesota with Adrian Peterson having an MVP-type season right there. And I mentioned the Rams, and they're still in it as well. So, Torrance, as you look at that list, I'm going to ask you to take a look at the AFC list and tell me who you think these teams are that are going to make it in those 5 and 6 spots. In the AFC, Houston at 1, Denver looking really good. New England's got the Texans tonight in the big one. Baltimore, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Jets, Cleveland, and San Diego looking in. Hard to imagine. I mentioned Cleveland. Okay, so what about the 5 and 6 teams in each conference? Who do you like?
Well, I like in AFC, I like the Colts, and I like Pittsburgh to come in those last 2 spots. We already know who are in the top 4 spots in that division right now. As far as the NFC, Seattle. Seattle's playing great ball. I definitely see it. I can see them in there. That last spot, I'm going to give it to the Cowboys. I just think they're going to, the Cowboys, for some reason, Tony Romo, them, I think they're going to sneak in. How, I don't know. For some reason, I just see them sneaking in at the end, picking up that 6th spot.
Ryan?
Well, you are dead wrong, my friend, because the Saints are going to go to Texas Cowboy Stadium and derail the Cowboys' hopes. I'll tell you what, I keep fluctuating on my NFC conference champion. I don't think it's going to be Atlanta. And if Green Bay can run the ball like they did last night, I like Green Bay out of the NFC.
Stole
if
my
they can
thunder.
run the ball like they did last
Stole
night.
my thunder.
Yeah.
Curtis?
The one team in the NFC that we got to understand that really can run the ball is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
They have great talent, and if you look at that team, that's a team that if they can just move up a little bit, you don't want to go in the Northwest and playing them, and they've had some road victories. So I like the Seahawks.
Well, they can run. Marshawn Lynch is a beast. He continues to run the ball very well. Russell Wilson looks better than a rookie, frankly, and they're playing very honest defense, and they have a definitive home field advantage where they play. So unquestionably, they're a team you have to keep a close eye on. The Super Bowl, of course, coming to New Orleans in February, and many festivities part of that week, including the annual Super Bowl breakfast. It's inspirational, always a great speaker, Bart Starr Award presented, and our Ken Berthelot had a chance to visit with Terry Bortz of the Super Bowl breakfast and Athletes in Action.
We're really excited to be back. It's been a while since the Super Bowl has been here, and we're very thrilled to be back. The Super Bowl breakfast has been sanctioned by the NFL as part of the official events that are going to be happening Super Bowl weekend. And the Bart Starr Award is the centerpiece of our program. And that award is given to a current NFL player for outstanding character, integrity, and leadership in the home, on the field, and in the community.
And if people want to find out more about the 2013 Super Bowl breakfast, how can they do so?
They should go to our website, which is simply superbowlbreakfast.com. We have tables of 12 for 2 price points, $1,800 or $1,200. We have individual tickets available as well. If they have any questions, they can call our 800 number. But we also want to tell you that Danny Warfel, who I know is very beloved here in New Orleans, is confirmed for our program. We'll be announcing other speakers who will be on the program, but we know from past experience that we will have some of the top NFL athletes and coaches there that morning, and you will hear stories at the breakfast that you wouldn't hear anywhere else.
Our Sports NOLA trivia question of the evening. Darren Sproles at his second game is the same with both a rushing and receiving touchdown. Who has the most games with both rushing and receiving touchdowns in team history? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. And go ahead and flash it. Reggie Bush is correct. 5 would be the answer. And it's a little known fact. I know a lot of people didn't appreciate him as much as maybe they should have when he was here. He was a very good player. And Reggie Bush is the answer to our trivia question today. Ken Trahan, Moe's Pizza, Westwego, Avenue H, an institution in New Orleans, much like Curtis Johnson's an institution in New Orleans. Moe's Pizza, Curtis Johnson, they kind of go together. He's getting stopped by everybody walking in here, so that's good. And none of them were giving him citations, so that's a good thing too. Right now, we're going to put Brian Allee-Walsh on the hot seat because we do this each and every week with a topic of interest that is clearly one that is a hot topic. And this one is very simple. Will Sean Payton return as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints in 2013? The Saints have had a couple of weeks to negotiate with him, and nothing's been done to this point in time. Surprised? Any indication? Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Trahan, as always. Yeah, I've written this for sportsNOLA.com, and I, after conferring with some people, including my good friend Curtis Johnson over here, and Curtis agrees with me. I want to go on record as saying that I think Sean will be back, and Coach Johnson would know probably the wherefores and here-tos and everything else as to why they haven't been able to get a deal done. I don't think money is an issue. I think there are things within the football operations that Sean Payton wants to make sure that get done. You know what? He's in a very powerful position right now. He's got a position of leverage right now, and he can get things that he wants. And perhaps this is part of the hang-up right now. But I have to presume that he will be back because, one, they want him back, and two, I think he wants to come back and get this franchise going back in the right direction again.
It must be Christmas time because I agree with you, Brian. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. That's it? That's all?
That's all need to be said. That's all need to be said. Merry Christmas. But I think one of the number one things a new coach, whenever going to a team, the one position they need to have and they love to have and know they have is a quarterback. I think him and Drew Brees are married. They came to the city together. They turned the city around. They brought a Super Bowl ring to the city. They enlightened the city. I think that it's a marriage that is not ready for a divorce. I think they're going to continue to grow with this. We had a setback this year. I think we can put this season behind. He come back and get the Saints back on track with their winning ways. Is he the guy to do it? Yes, he is the one to do it. I just don't see any other coach right now with Drew Brees. Believe me, we'll have a lot probably knocking on the door if he leaves. But who will he go to? I know a lot of people out there suspecting Dallas Cowboys. They're saying Tony Romo. Tony Romo is not no Drew Brees, not by a long shot. Again, I don't think it's money. It might be something else. But the one reason he will be back, and I think he'll be back, is number 9.
Curtis?
You know, I think he definitely will be back. And here's what you got to understand about Sean being loyal and Mr. Benson and Mickey and all the guys in the organization. There's great relationships. this whole thing is about relationships. You can go in some places and it'll be a bad marriage, like Torrance said. But the bottom line is Sean has a relationship. He has a relationship with the community. It's his community. It's his team, and it's going to get done his way. And I believe he'll be back. And I'll make the first prediction: they'll be in the Super Bowl next year.
Wow.
I like
You heard it first here.
Hey, I like it. I'm with you. Not with you, but I'm with him now.
Coach Johnson, I do have a question for you. I'm going to put you on the hot seat with this question, all right? This is the 1A. There was a clause in the contract that apparently didn't catch with the league office, all right, regarding, it was called the Loomis clause for the lack of a better expression. But they want to kind of clarify that. What's your feeling about that clause? Why was it inserted in there, in your opinion?
Well, again, I go back to relationships. I think Sean and Mickey, they have a great relationship. And I think they don't work for, one doesn't work for the other. They work with each other so well. They've taken a franchise that hadn't done anything for over 40 years and all of a sudden made them champions. And they are one of the powers in the league year in, year out. So why would we ever want to break that up? Well, those two guys are joined at the hip. So I think that relationship, as long as that relationship is going well, as long as they're doing it and they're doing it together, I think that we have a great professional team.
And I think you said the right word, relationship. That is the biggest thing right here. He has a relationship with the management. He has a relationship with his quarterback. He has a relationship with the community. He has a relationship with the owner. That is a recipe for greatness. Keep it together.
And I'm using my right hand, which I haven't been able to use in 2 months, to bang the gavel and get this done to make a judgment here. Sean Payton lives in suburban Dallas. Sean Payton coached for the Cowboys. Sean Payton's family is there. He's enamored of the star. He's enamored of Jerry World. It's all set up. And he'll be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. I believe that from day one. I still believe that. Why is this occurring right now? Very simply this. Sean Payton is incredibly fond of Tom Benson. He feels a tremendous sense of gratitude. He's indebted to him and really likes the man personally. He gave him his opportunity and he's gotten out of his way. And we saw the results as a result of that. Sean Payton very clearly would be here for life in coaching if Tom Benson was the owner of the Saints through that duration. But we don't know how long that's going to be. None of us knows our time here on this earth. And obviously that is a concern moving forward. Without getting into semantics or personalities, Sean Payton's biggest concern is the Saints organization and how it's going to be run and who's going to run it long term. Because as all three of these gentlemen have stated, he likes it here. He's got a marriage to Mickey Loomis. He has a marriage to Drew Brees, and Drew Brees just signed a long-term extension for a lot of money last time I checked. So therefore, I think without a doubt, he wants to be here. He does not want it to end this way. And now he really has something to prove based upon the way the Saints performed this year under adverse circumstances. I do believe he will be back. I do believe there are still some concerns about the future of the franchise, just where it's going, who's running it. But ultimately, the final analysis, a deal will get done, and he'll be back in New Orleans, in my estimation. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about the Tulane Green Wave and prep football as Sports NOLA TV continues. What an interesting configuration from San Diego to Boise to Florida to the East Coast and somewhere in between. They call it the Big East, but it is the new league that Tulane will be affiliated with. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV. Curtis Johnson, of course, will lead his Tulane Green Wave against this new conference and transitioning into a new stadium as well in less than 2 years at Ullman Stadium on campus. Okay, Curtis, so the Big East. Why is this a step up for Tulane football in your estimation?
You know what, you got to love it. Here's one thing that you know, you can sell a kid on, if you win every game, you can go and you can win a national championship. You know, it's a possibility that you definitely can. The competition is great. The media coverage from the West Coast all the way to the East Seaboard, up and down to Florida. I mean, you are covered everywhere. It's just a win-win.
Will it help you recruit more?
Absolutely. You know, when you can tell, when you go home and say we can win a national championship, when you can go home and you say 1 week we can be in sunny California, Southern California, you can go and you can say the next week you say we'll be in sunny South Florida. So I mean, those are things that are definitely selling points. I mean, I want to go right now.
Transitioning from one to the other, there are some former Conference USA members in this league. So there's some familiarity there, and I guess that helps to a degree to know what you're competing with.
Absolutely. You're not really afraid of everything being new because you're familiar with the teams, you're familiar with the recruits, you're familiar with the atmosphere. So, you know, you just want to, you know, I just want to get into the conference and begin to play. But you just love, I mean, you love what's going on at Tulane. You love what's going on uptown. New conference, new stadium, you know, it's just a renewed excitement.
Offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, would these be your biggest areas of need?
Absolutely. You know, you always, you know, when you win championships, you win them in the trenches. I think you got to play good defense, but I think you also got to win, you know, up front. I think we got to get bigger, we got to get faster, we got to get tougher up front, and then along with that, you know, I think you got to splatter a little bit of skill. You know, we got to get back in this area. We hadn't recruited very much in this area previously. So, and I think this is the best football in the nation.
You're going to miss that quarterback. He's a good player. I hope he gets a chance at the next level. One thing that I liked about your team was that your receivers stepped up and played better this year.
You know, they really did. I thought the quarterback made us go. I think he will get a shot. Absolutely.
And then you look at quarterbacks. That position's wide open going into next year.
You know what? You got to feel good about what we got. We got some commitments coming in here. We also got a kid, Devin Powell, who was, you know, a great player at Old Perry Walker High School last year. So, you know, you just love that. You just love what we got going.
Torrance, they threw the ball pretty well. They just couldn't run the ball.
Yes, Coach, I wanted to ask you a question about the quarterback situation. Is that one of the most, I guess, being a coach, is that one of your number one positions that you're looking for? Being a new coach coming into a new organization?
You know what? You definitely want to have a great quarterback, but you know, you look at teams like Alabama, LSU. If you got the supporting cast around a quarterback in college, I think you can also win like that. Now, if you don't have the supporting cast, you know, or your supporting cast is just average, you got to have a great quarterback. And I thought this year we had a great quarterback, but you know, we just didn't have enough supporting cast to support him.
CJ, the idea that you guys are going to be moving to the Big East in 2014, is that going to, what is the difference in the two conferences top to bottom? Is this a tougher conference that you'll be going into than from Coosa?
Absolutely. It's going to be, it's not going to be a easy ride. You know, we struggled some in Conference USA, which I feel is a really good conference. What the Big East does, it just legitimizes everything around you. These linemen are going to be bigger. These guys are going to be faster. There are going to be kids in South Florida that we're competing against that are great players. There'll be kids in California. As you look at San Diego State, you look at Boise State. I mean, those are the places that you know you got to compete with those guys. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for us.
Well, if he's going to be successful, he's going to have to continue to recruit well and recruit well locally in particular. And with that in mind, he can't talk about specific players that are high school athletes, but we can. And it's time now to unveil our Prep Player of the Year for sportsNOLA.com and the New Orleans Quarterback Club. And he has been special all year long. And it is Devontae Speedy Noel, the junior quarterback at Endicott. Speedy completed 70% of his passes, 26 touchdown passes, rushed for 1,349 yards and 21 more touchdowns, and for good measure, caught 18 passes, including 3 touchdowns. That's 50 touchdowns in 1 year. He's a very personable young man. His nickname is Speedy for a reason, Torrance. He's real fast, and he can change directions on a dime.
Yes. Well, coaches always says no replacement for speed. You can have all the moves you want, but there's no replacement for speed.
And his team won a state championship, Brian, and he was a primary reason why they won.
Boy, I tell you what, I know Coach DeLuke's already thinking about what it's going to be like when Speedy moves on after next season. But enjoy it. Enjoy him next year.
And head to Tulane.
And all CJ, all he can do is sit here and smile. Okay, that's enough of a statement in itself. That's enough of a statement in itself. Well, we had state championship games played in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome this past weekend, including local teams. John Curtis Christian, a fake punt no less. What a throw and catch out of punt formation to sustain a drive against Evangel. And what an amazing performance by Curtis to go undefeated. And you can't talk about players, Curtis, but this program, 25 state championships, maybe the #1 program in the country.
You know what, I would put it against any program in the country. JT, I played against JT John Curtis High School, and Coach Curtis does a fantastic job. He's running the same offense, he's running the same defense, and all they do is just win.
And there's a good look at JT as he gets to celebrate. That young man, Duke Riley, gets to celebrate. And then there's the trophy. And of course, Tulane will celebrate. They got 4 kids committed from John Curtis. He can't name names, but he's got 4, and that's pretty good. And a memo to Curtis, keep recruiting there, you'll be fine. And you might want to keep recruiting at Endicott too, you'll be fine. And you might want to keep recruiting at Archbishop Rummel, who claimed the 5A state championship, their first ever beating Barb. What a huge crowd. Rummel fans were everywhere, gigantic crowd. 35-14 victory. Seath and Carter from Damian Williams, 2 terrific players, can't tackle a guy, and as great a blocker as you'll ever find, Brian. If you want to watch Rummel football, it's as fundamental as it gets. They execute extremely well, and they know what they can do well. Stephen Dunbar, our prep player of the week on that reception.
Coach Kutera for
And you covered this game.
Yeah, and Coach Kutera of Barb said it perfectly, is that Rummel's best defense was its offense last Friday night. When they took the ball out of Barb's hands and controlled the ball on offense, did a great job. They controlled that game. The fourth quarter, they owned it. Congratulations to all 3 champs.
Torrance?
Yes, the one thing I like about Rummel, they control the game pretty much like you said. They control the game. They snapped the ball with about 3 seconds. They kept their defense on the sideline. They kept the ball moving. And they controlled the game from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, just a continual plan that stayed in place, controlling the football, winning at the line of scrimmage, executing, and then their defense, which isn't big but runs like the wind, just adjusted and gave this kid, who's a tremendous athlete, Ken Infantino, trouble late. And Deshaun Smith, he's pretty good. He's heading to LSU. So just an incredible weekend of high school football in the Superdome. Keith Fulton, 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and he's a junior. So just a lot to like in this game from the Rummel side. And as for Barb, they'll be back with their outstanding athletes. That kid personifies the Rummel team. He's about 5'7", leading tackler, unbelievably smart football player, and Michael Kennedy. But again, that's what makes high school football great. A lot of these kids will never play at the next level, but they're great players. Let's take a look at, as Jay Roth celebrates, at the results of this past weekend from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. It was Rummel over Barb, 35-14. What a performance by Parkview Baptist, 42-7 over Notre Dame. Washita Christian wins their 2nd straight over Haynesville. Edna Carr defeats Neville, knocks off the defending champions, and John Curtis rolls over Evangel. Nearly 50,000 fans in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome to watch it, and it was a distinct pleasure, and we love covering prep football. We'll take a time out here, and we'll be back to talk about what's to come for the New Orleans Saints as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Moe's Pizza in Westwego in just a moment. Moe's Pizza. The Italians do it better. Viva Italia. 1112 Avenue H in Westwego. And of course, go to sportsNOLAtv20.com. You want catering for the holidays? Man, come to Moe's, the best Italian food you're going to find. And as I've said before, the muffaladas are great. The mini muffaladas are terrific. Other sandwiches are outstanding. The chicken and sausage jambalaya is superb. And of course, the pizzas, none bigger, none better than at Moe's. Thanks to Jeff Harsman and his crew for giving us the opportunity to be here with Sports NOLA TV. The New Orleans Saints, well, they're pretty much playing out the string now because postseason aspirations have evaporated as a result of their loss to the Giants. This week, a rematch with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Saints won at Tampa Bay first time around, Brian, and if they show up to play, they have a good chance to win again.
You know, this year is the 35th anniversary of Tampa's first ever victory when they snapped that 26-game losing streak to open their franchise.
Yep.
They beat Archie in the group back in '77. So, yeah,
77.
long time.
Pretty much finished Hank Stram as head coach of the
That's
Saints.
absolutely right.
It was 77 because they came in, Tampa came in 76. I wasn't a season ticket holder, but I used to go to the games when I was a younger guy, and I used to sell Cokes at Tampa Stadium. But in order for the Saints to win this ball game, we have to put the past, we have to put playoffs, all this stuff, put it behind, come out and be professional.
Even with a new coach, Curtis, they still play that cover two. You got to be patient offensively against them.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, one thing about Tampa, you got to run the ball against them. If you run the ball against them, I think you'll be very successful. Look at their losses. Everybody's run the ball, and I think the Saints will definitely do that. They have the 4 great running backs, and I think we'll be fine this week.
Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule that the Saints have aside from the Tampa Bay game. We alluded to the game at Dallas earlier. That's on December 23rd. Then Carolina comes to New Orleans to take on the Saints to wrap up the season. Bottom line, they could win all these games. They could lose all of them. It is about attitude at this point, Brian.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? Like we said earlier, I think 8-8 sounds a heck of a lot better than anything below 500, and they're certainly capable of winning each one of those games.
Yeah, they're definitely capable of winning all these ball games. The thing is, you have to go out there and perform, and I hope they just go out and perform.
And I know you pull hard for them all the time, Curtis, and you watch them play every week.
They will win this week. They will create some momentum and get into the offseason, and they'll have a fantastic offseason. But I think it'll start this week, and we don't turn the ball over, we'll win.
Curtis is a prognosticator. He has 12 games next year, so what, 10-2 is good? What?
At least.
It's all good. If Curtis John, I'll say it right here, if he goes 10-2 next year, he's National Coach of the Year, okay? And by the way, before we let you go, Cairo Santos, I know you wanted to say something about him winning the Lou Groza Award.
Amazing. You know what? This kid would be on my coattail the whole game. I can make it. He can make it from 80 yards, he'll tell me sometimes. All of a sudden, he goes and kicks a 57-yarder, and he comes back and kicks a 54-yarder, indoor, outdoor, from whatever hash. Great. He's just a fantastic player.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend. God bless you. Great to
Thank
have
you.
you with
God
us.
bless you, too.
Torrance, as always, a pleasure.
Oh, great.
Brian, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Kenny.
And we want to thank Adam and Andrew and Lenny and the entire crew here at Sports NOLA TV, and thank Moe's Pizza for having us here tonight. For these gentlemen, I'm Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us, and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.